welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shujra, and these are the headlines. India has reported a record of nearly 3,700 deaths from COVID-19 overnight and more than 392,000 cases. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 113 people have lost their lives to the virus and more than 4,400 tested positive since yesterday. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 151 million people. North Korea has warned the U.S. of a corresponding response to what it called Washington's hostile policies towards Pyongyang. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry called President Joe Biden's comments about North Korea's nuclear program intolerable and a big blunder. Earlier, Biden said Washington's policies will not focus on achieving a grand bargain with Pyongyang. The coalition in Yemen says it has destroyed an explosive-laden drone launched by the Houthi rebels. In a statement, the coalition said the drone was aimed at southern Hamish Mushahid city of Saudi Arabia, but Houthis claim the drone accurately hit the target at King Khalid Air Base in the city. Russia's ambassador to the UN nuclear watchdog, Mikhail Ulyanov, says talks aimed at restoring the 2015 nuclear deal will resume on Friday. He was speaking to reporters after a meeting of the remaining parties to the deal in Vienna. Ulyanov said the talks are moving in the right direction and the final outcome is expected in a few weeks. Meanwhile, Iran's chief negotiator Abbas Araghchi has called for lifting of U.S. sanctions on Tehran based on agreements reached so far. For more news in detail, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. India has reported a record of nearly 3,700 deaths from COVID-19 overnight and more than 392,000 cases. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 152 million people. More in this report. The vaccine rollout is falling behind schedule due to high demand as it continues to expose the stark economic divisions of the world. Mexico says the U.S. will probably send it more doses of AstraZeneca vaccine, as the company admitted its next supply to the South American country will be delayed substantially. Meanwhile, hundreds of Brazilians took to the streets of São Paulo to show their support for President Jair Bolsonaro, who has been criticized for his handling of the pandemic.
Everyone, every family is suffering from this pandemic. Everyone is losing loved ones. I have already lost one, but we can't stop. We have to work. We need to deal with the situation.
The virus continues to ravage India with a staggering number of cases and deaths every day. The country has started the third phase of its inoculation drive, but the financial center, Mumbai, only offered limited vaccinations due to a shortage of doses. Meanwhile, France and Germany are the latest countries to send aid to India.
It's a very important package because it's not only a response to short-term needs, but it's also equipment that will provide autonomy for Indian hospitals. Each of these units can provide oxygen during more than 12 years to a 250-bed hospital in India. So it will also contribute to build health capacity in India.
Australia's fourth largest city, Perth, now faces prospects of its second snap lockdown in 2 weeks after detection of a new cluster. Meanwhile, in China, 15 more cases of the new coronavirus were detected over the past 24 hours. In Syria, opposition-held Northwest has begun vaccinating frontline medical staff against COVID-19. Authorities in the region received the first batch of the AstraZeneca vaccine through the platform of COVAX. This report has more. As with everywhere else in the world, the first stage of the vaccination campaign in Syria's northwest will target health workers. The AstraZeneca vaccine arrived in Idlib through the Bab al-Hawa border crossing with Turkey. 2 more batches are said to arrive throughout the year to cover nearly 850,000 people.
The targeted group at the first stage is the medical teams, in addition to those who work in the humanitarian field. The number of those targeted in the first stage is 53,000 people. The campaign will continue for 21 days as the teams will move from a hospital to another and from a healthcare center to another to vaccinate their teams.
The World Health Organization says it aims to inoculate nearly 20% of Syria's population by the year end. According to the Syrian Immunization Group, a number of medical staff has already been vaccinated.
I took a dose of COVID-19 vaccine today, May 1st, 2021, as the first person to get it. I was vaccinated to protect myself first and then those I interact with. I advise all those working in the health field to take the vaccine.
Syria was hit hard by the pandemic last year during 2 spikes in August and December. Health authorities in northwest Syria have so far reported nearly 22,000 infections and 641 deaths. Pakistan has registered 113 deaths from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the nationwide death toll has crossed the 18,000 mark. The ministry said more than 4,400 tested positive for the virus overnight. Nearly 830,000 contracted the virus so far, out of which over 722,000 have recovered. The ministry said there are more than 89,000 active cases in the country. It said over 5,400 of them are critical. North Korea has warned the U.S. of a corresponding response to what it called Washington's hostile policies towards Pyongyang. Earlier, U.S. President Joe Biden said Washington's policies will not focus on achieving a grand bargain with Pyongyang. North Korea's foreign ministry called Biden's comments about its nuclear program intolerable and a big blunder. In a statement, the ministry said U.S. deterrence is just a means for posing nuclear threats to North Korea. Pyongyang warned that Washington will find itself in a very grave situation if it would not stop. Meanwhile, North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong has warned South Korea over anti-Pyongyang leaflet issues. In a statement, Kim said Seoul failed to stop the reckless acts. The coalition in Yemen says it has destroyed an explosive-laden drone launched by the Houthi rebels. In a statement, the coalition said the drone was aimed at the southern Hamas Mushayid city of Saudi Arabia. But Houthis claim the drone accurately hit the target at King Khalid Air Base in the city. The group has kept up cross-border attacks on Saudi cities after Riyadh last month presented a ceasefire proposal. The Houthis said the deal did not go far enough in fully lifting a sea and air blockade on territories they hold. Russia's ambassador to the UN nuclear watchdog, Mikhail Ulyanov, says talks aimed at restoring the 2015 deal will resume on Friday. He was speaking to reporters after a meeting of the remaining parties to the deal in Vienna. Ulyanov said the talks are moving in the right direction and the final outcome is expected in a few weeks. Meanwhile, Iran's chief negotiator Abbas Araghchi called for lifting of U.S. sanctions on Tehran based on agreements reached so far. He said the talks are more mature and both sides have started to work on a draft. Earlier, the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan had said negotiations are in an unclear place. Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan have begun withdrawing servicemen and military equipment from the zone of conflict on the border. Earlier, the two countries agreed on a complete ceasefire after reports of fresh shooting and troops buildup. Kyrgyzstan Border Guard Service says no incidents or shootings have been recorded since the truce. Clashes broke out between the two countries on the 28th of April over a water reservoir that claim both as their own. According to Human Rights Watch, 40 people were killed and many others were injured in the fighting. Somalia's parliament has voted to cancel a 2-year presidential term extension. The move will help in ending an armed standoff in the capital, Mogadishu. In a speech following the vote, Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble ordered the army to return to the barracks. Roble also urged politicians to avoid inciting violence. Ahead of the vote, President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo said that he was directing his premier to begin preparations for the election. His term expired in February, but without a new crop of lawmakers, Parliament was unable to choose a president. Last month, the lower house approved the term extension, but the Senate rejected it. Militants have killed 19 people in attacks on 2 villages in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Local authorities said victims of the communal violence near Beni include 10 soldiers. They said unknown assailants also shot dead an influential imam of Beni while he was offering evening prayer. The attacks come after President Felix Tshisekedi declared a state of siege in North Kivu and Ituri provinces amid rising violence. An estimated 122 armed groups of varying sizes operate in mineral-rich eastern DCR. The violent clashes have killed hundreds since the start of 2021 and displaced more than 1.5 million people. In the UK, police have arrested 9 people over taking part in the Kill the Bill protest in central London. In a statement, the police said officers were continuing to engage with protesters. More than 1,000 gathered against a proposed law they say would give police extra powers to curb protests. They demanded that the government reverse the planned legislation. Similar protests also took place in other cities across England, Wales, and including Bristol. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission is on its way back to the Earth with 3 American and 1 Japanese astronaut aboard. The agency said the Crew Dragon spacecraft named Resilience has undocked from the International Space Station 1. It said Crew's 1 undocking and splashdown was originally planned for Friday and Saturday, respectively. However, NASA and SpaceX moved it after a review of forecast weather conditions in the zones of the coast of Florida. This will be the first night splashdown of a U.S. crewed aircraft since Apollo's 8 pre-dawn return in the Pacific Ocean in December 1968. In the Netherlands, retired shopkeepers Elise Lutz and Herweer Dekers have reached the keys to the first country's 3D printed house. The bungalow was printed in 24 parts in a nearby factory before being assembled on a plot in Eindhoven. More in this report.
The new tenants of the first 3D printed house in the Netherlands took a tour of the 2-bedroom concrete bungalow. They admired its undulating walls and sober grey aesthetic, which designers say are meant to evoke a large boulder.
Yeah, I find it just pretty. An irregularity in the wall, it's like there was a stutter here and then the printing went on. It is really pretty. We feel very good here. I find the colors magnificent. The interior's colors are very pure. It is very good.
Grooves where the printer shuttled back and forth can be seen clearly on the walls of the 94 square meter building.
With this small construction behind us, I think a big step has been taken today towards a high-quality construction industry. With this technology, that is to say, digitalization technology, we have greatly contributed to bringing more versatility, sustainability, and health to the construction industry.
Designers say the house fully complies with Dutch building standards. It is the first of 5 in what they dub Project Milestone, with designs set to become more sophisticated as they build on the knowledge gained.
In China, a light show in Wuhan, once hit hard by COVID-19, depicts the city's strong recovery from the coronavirus outbreak. More in this report.
Wuhan decorated its night sky to send a message of hope and innovation to the world. The city is putting on the show under its Tech and Innovation Center, an area called Optics Valley, during the 5-day Labor Day holiday. Buildings along China's longest river, the Yangtze, have been lit up.
让全世界
We'd like to invite all friends from across the world to Wuhan to enjoy this light show and make them feel the rebirth of the Optics Valley and all the city, as well as the vitality and vigor in economic recovery.
Wuhan's GDP had contracted greatly in the first quarter of 2020, but has managed a robust rebound since the lift of the 76-day lockdown. The economic growth of the city is especially reflected in the high-tech manufacturing industry, with a five-fold increase in investment compared with early last year.
The Bonhams Auction House in New York City is set to sell the works of Pablo Picasso, Camille Pissarro, and Yayao Kusama. The Impressionist and Modern Art sale is scheduled for May 13th, and the Kusama sale is scheduled for the 12th of May.
Pablo Picasso's painting Fameux Béarmove, a portrait of his lover, Marie-Thérèse Waltenot, has not been seen publicly since 1984. It is ready to be auctioned and has a pre-sale estimate of $10 to $15 million. The auction also includes Camille Pissarro's La Rosa, a painting of his Dutch servant, one of his most exquisite works. Pissarro's painting is reported to have a pre-sale estimate of $1.5 to $2 million. Also, a never-before-seen collection of his works by Yayoi Kusama will hit the auction block. Kusama's bold, bright red Hudson River and Mississippi River have pre-sale estimates of $3 to $5 million. Her untitled painting, a precursor to her Infinity Rooms series, has a pre-sale estimate of $2.5 to $3.5 million.
It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.